The moment you wake up, there's this tremendous urge to tell everyone about it. You want to grab people by the shoulders and say, look, look, I've seen it. It's all right here. We've been looking in the wrong direction the whole time. But what happens when you do this? The other person looks at you with a mixture of confusion and concern. They nod politely. They might even say, that's wonderful for you. But inside they're thinking you've gone a bit strange. Why is this? Because awakening is not an idea. It's not a concept that can be passed from one mind to another, like a recipe for bread. It's a lived reality. It's the difference between reading about swimming and actually being in the water. When you try to describe the water to someone who's never been wet, what do they hear? Just words, just sounds. The actual feeling of water, the way it holds you, the way it moves around your body, that cannot be captured in language. I once knew a man who had what you might call a profound spiritual experience. He was walking in the garden one evening, and suddenly everything became transparent. He saw that he was not a separate being walking through a garden, but rather the entire process of gardening was happening. There was no walker and no garden, just walking, gardening as one movement. Well, he was so excited by this that he rushed to tell his wife. And what did she say? She said, "That's nice, dear. Don't forget to take out the rubbish." You see, she couldn't receive what he was trying to give because she hadn't had the experience. It's like trying to explain the color red to someone who was born blind. You can talk about wavelengths of light. You can describe how it makes you feel. But you cannot give them the direct experience of redness. And spiritual awakening is far more subtle than even that. So what happens when you insist on sharing this experience? You begin to sound like you're bragging. Oh, I've had this marvelous insight. I've seen the truth. I understand what life is really about. And immediately, you've created a division. You've put yourself over here as the awakened one, and the other person over there as the unawakened one. And in doing so, you've actually contradicted the very insight you were trying to share, which is that there is no division, no separation, no you and them. The awakened person learns to be quiet about their awakening. Not out of false modesty, but because they understand that talking about it is like a finger pointing at the moon. The finger is useful if someone wants to look where it's pointing. But if they're fascinated by the finger itself, they'll miss the moon entirely. And most people, when you try to share your awakening, become fascinated by your finger. They want to know what you did to get awakened. They want the technique, the method, the secret practice. But awakening didn't happen because you did something. It happened when you stopped doing and simply saw what was already there. What worked for you worked because it was right for you at that particular moment in your life. It fit your temperament, your situation, your particular flavor of confusion. Imagine you have a headache and you take a certain medicine and the headache goes away. Does this mean everyone with a headache should take that same medicine? Of course not. One person's headache might be from tension, another's from lack of sleep, another's from dehydration. The same medicine won't work for all of them. In fact, it might harm some of them. Spiritual practices are exactly like this. What brings one person to clarity might trap another person in technique. I might sit quietly and watch my breath, and in that watching, suddenly see through the illusion of the separate self. But if I tell you, you must sit and watch your breath, you might spend years sitting and watching and getting absolutely nowhere, because your particular knot is different from mine. So be quiet about your awakening. Live it rather than talk about it. And trust that those who are ready to wake up will wake up, not because you pushed them, but because consciousness itself is waking up through all of us, each in our own time, each in our own way. You're not the awakener. You're just another expression of the awakening that's always already happening. And if someone really wants to know, if they really come to you with genuine curiosity and readiness, then by all means speak. But speak as one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread, not as someone who has arrived telling someone else how to get there. Because the beautiful secret is this: there's nowhere to get to. we're already there. We've always been there. We're just playing this magnificent game of pretending we're not.